What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Jay's Fish. Today we're going to be talking about plants and why they aren't growing for you. Let's get it. In an aquarium, I think aquarium plants are an essential to have what I believe a fish tank should be, an ecosystem. Everything should be working together, working in unison, and pretty much feeding off of each other to grow and be healthy. There's many different kinds of plants, and a lot of these different kinds of plants can really help your tank grow and thrive, such as water column feeding plants, slow growing, and fast growing plants. Some examples of water column feeding plants that I have is this Java moss. It pretty much, I don't need to plant it anywhere. It doesn't have roots. It just grows and it feeds from the water, and it just pretty much pulls whatever nutrients that it can get. Another really fast growing plant are going to be these dwarf water lettuce, or pretty much any floater, as they have access to CO2 and oxygen at the surface, and they have their roots pulling from the water column. An example of a slower growing plant would be this Amazon sword, as this requires a lot of time and patience as the roots need to grow. It's planted in the sand and the substrate, and if you don't have any nutrients in there, it's going to take a while. It's gonna survive with a little bit of nutrients in the soil, but it's not going to thrive and really take off until the substrate gets some nutrients in it, such as fish poop, root tabs, or I used underneath the sand, I used old substrate from a different aquarium that had tons and tons of fish poop. I bagged it up and I raised it so it looks a little bit more higher, but these plants right here are going to be pulling from that substrate and they're going to be using that nutrients. So there are going to be lots of different products that you can use if you want to dose your aquarium with some sort of nutrients instead of root tabs. I love, you could get them at most Petco, PetSmart, or your local pet stores, like the Fluval or the Truval ones. But I love using Aquarium Co-op's Easy Green. It's super easy. It's just like a pump per like 10 gallons or something like that, and it grows plants really well, and plants love it, and they actually listen to the feedback and they try to better the formula, while all these other companies, they just have a really good product and they're not going to make it better. Another tip is going to be lighting. I have my lighting going on for 10 hours a day. I want algae on the walls, so that's why I'm doing it for so long. I'm going to be turning this into a shrimp tank later on, but I just didn't have the patience to wait like 2-3 months for everything to cycle and be ready for the shrimp. So I cycled the tank and I put fish in, and while I'm waiting for this tank to be ready for shrimp, I'm just getting it ready. But from what I researched, lights in plants really go hand in hand, as in if a light, I believe it's called a full spectrum, where it has like the reds and blues and the different colors, that those lights help plants grow really good, and even the red plants like the red root floaters and just any of the red colored plants, you would definitely need a full spectrum light. While if you aren't doing the red plants, just make sure that it's not super bright, but make sure that it's a good enough light source and bright for your plants, because there are things to measure it, how much light your tank is getting, but those are super expensive, and unfortunately I don't have that, so I have to play it by eye and guess. But so this light that I'm using, it's a really simple one. I attached it to my lid, see, right there in the center of the screen. So, but yeah, as you can see, it has that red, blue, green light, and it really does help. It really does help all the plants grow, as it's not just white or yellow light. Plants do need different types of light to grow, and it provides all of that, and all of these plants are growing really well. If you are having trouble keeping your plants alive, it kind of depends on where you are getting it, as these plants, I'm not gonna lie to you, I got them from PetSmart, and they have been doing pretty good. They were not in water, they were tissue cultures, so they were not submerged, and I had to submerge them in water and pretty much allow them to transfer over from, like, yeah, not submerged to submerged plants and actually full aquatic plants. But like I said, I am running 10-hour lighting, and I try to keep this tank as clean as possible in terms of like readings, like nitrate, ammonia, and all that other fun stuff. So this tank is thriving. Not thriving, it's surviving, it's maintaining. These plants are soaking up a lot of the nasties in the water and helping it and allowing them to grow from that nutrients. But I am helping it with like a small little 10% water change, you know, once a week, just to keep the tank going and make sure it's really healthy. Also, if you're having trouble keeping your plants alive, there are tons of different things that you should be looking for in your water. Iron, potassium, and all those other fun scientific nerdy things. But honestly, what I would suggest and recommend is buying a whole bunch of different plants, planting it, and seeing what works and doesn't work. Because you'd be surprised that, like, yeah, in my other water, when I was living in Sacramento, I was having a really hard time with moss for whatever reason. But with this water, I'm having an actually decent time growing moss. It's not super hard, it's not dying. Because when I was in Sacramento, this moss, it would be brown by now. It'd be completely brown, it'd be fully dead, and I would have no idea what to do. But with this water, the moss likes it. So yeah, I would highly suggest you trying out different plants, trying out different ones. You don't have to get fully aquatic submerged plants. There are different out the tank ones. They are similar like floaters, but you have to hang them from the tank, such as pothos, peace lilies. I think like tons and tons of different other plants that you can use, and the roots are going to be growing in the water and drawing the nutrients and the nasties from the water, and the fish are going to be happy as they have some shelter. They can use the roots as a shelter and hiding places, and the water's not going to be nasty. If you learned something or if you enjoyed watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next one.